Morning guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are changing the springs on the car. We're going to start the modification process. I'm going to tell you what tools you need. I'm going to show you complications that you might come across. I'm basically just going to show you everything you need to know for you to be able to safely change the springs on your own car. Okay, so without further ado, let's just get on with it and get it done. I want to see the result. I'm sure you want to see the result as well. All right, so let's just do the boring stuff. I'm going to get the car jacked up. It is on a jacking point underneath. I'm just going to get it jacked up, get the wheel off, and then I'll be back. Right guys, we're under the car. Here is your spring. That is what we're taking out. This spring is actually in really good condition as well. This is what we're taking out. But to take it out, we've got to take the whole shock absorber out. The spring seats in this, and then up the top, it seats in place as well. So essentially you can't get this spring out without taking the whole shock out anyway. So this is why we've got to take this out. To take it out, this is the shock absorber. All of this here is all the shock absorber, and that's your hub. So if we have a look, that's your hub there. So what that means is there's two bolts that go through, one here and one here. They just go through, and two nuts on the end. We take them out, we unbolt the brake line from the shock absorber, because obviously it's mounted to the shock absorber. Take that off so it's just hanging freely over here. Take these two bolts out here, and then the drop link is this. This is going down to the anti-roll bar. Okay, we need to take that off as well, and the either brake wear indicator or sensor, we just take that off. But you know, taking that off is a 2-second thing. Like, I've just pulled it out from that there, just pulled it out, it's out of the way already. This can be a bit of a pain. All right, there is this goes through here like that, and then obviously that's the bolt here. There is a nut on here. We have to undo this nut. Once that's undone, that slides out, allows us to take the shock absorber out. Okay, but when you're undoing this nut, normally this starts to spin, but they have put an Allen key slot in the end of it here, so you can put your spanner on, put an Allen key in, and when you're undoing it, you can counter it with the Allen key so it doesn't spin. So obviously the nut will undo. All right, so at the bottom it's actually straightforward. We've got 1, 2 to take out, unbolt that one. Okay, just keep your bolts safe. All right, just pull the wear indicator if that's what it is, or the anti-lock brakes. Just pull it out of the way. From there, there's a little clip there as well. I've just pulled that out. Okay, pull that out. That's now out of the way from the shock. All right, drop link, which we're going to take out. I'm going to show you how to do it all anyway. And then at the top, we've got 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3. I've already checked. These are 13s. All right. Now, normally I'd say you might have to take all this plastic covering off to get to that bolt at the back, but I don't think we need to do that. If we undo the back one first, take the nut out, okay, we will definitely be able to take it all out without taking all the plastic trim off. We don't want to do that. It's just too much work. I don't think we need to do it. So back underneath, we're going to do under here first. All right, we're going to get these 2 big bolts out. We're going to get the brake line taken off, and we're going to get the drop link taken off. All right, so let me get some tools set up and let's get on with it. I am guessing that you can see under here. Okay, the weather's not looking too healthy, but I'm not too worried at the moment. So we have got the brake line that we're taking off first. As you can see here, I did say that is a 10mm socket. Okay, I have put it on a socket, and I'm just going to remove that first. All right, so if I get that, remember, anti-clockwise, just undo it and it will definitely come off, well, he says, and then this feels absolutely solid. Right, so jog the camera there, but don't worry about it. There we go. So there's your 10mm there. That's undoing. Take it off and put it back on. So that's your 10mm out. So as you see now, I've taken the brake line off the shock absorber. Right, we just move that to one side. As a rule of thumb, I'm just going to put this bolt back in and do it up a couple of turns. Saves us losing the bolt. All right, so always keep your bolts safe. We don't need to be losing stuff basically. All right, let's have a look what size these are. I would guess, if I was guessing, I'd probably guess totally wrong. Let's go big and work our way down. As I said, I don't know what size these are. That seems like an 18 to me. Yeah, so we've got 18 on the nut, okay? And I'm just going to have a look what size the other side is, which is way, way smaller. That's 17. No. Wow. So it seems like the other side is a 15, it looks like. Where are we? 15, 15, 15. Let's have a look. Is it a 15? Yeah, so it's a 15 on this side and a 18 on the nut side. All right, just to give you some idea. This is not an impact fit, but I don't think it'll be that tight. As you see, it's just undoing it, and actually it's undone. Undone really, really easily. You definitely wouldn't need to use an impact gun. All right, you just get a span on it, and that'll undo. All right, we're going to undo this one. Okay, so that one's also loose and undone. As you see, the two nuts are off. Okay, so that's the bottom of the shock absorber. I've left the nuts in. As you can see now, there's so much movement already just by loosening these bolts, but I'm not going to take them out until I've undone the drop link. All right, so put these safe. Again, keep everything that you're taking off safe. I would say that's probably the most important part, is not losing something, because if you lose something, you're not going to be able to get it all back together. All right, I would guess that's probably a 17 there. Yes, it is. That's a 17. I'm going to see if my impact will do it. If it won't, so that's spinning as I guessed it would. All right, so now what I'll do is I'll get a 17 spanner, get it on there. Where are we? 17 spanner. Get that on there like that. All right, and an Allen key. Do I know what size Allen key is? I haven't got a clue, but this is a 5. Let's try a 5 first. And has that gone in there? No, it's too big. So what about a 4? And a 4 is too small, so it must be a 5, but it's dirty. Yeah, so wiggle it all the way in. All right, get it right in there. And the idea of that is now I can hold that in place and turn the nut to take it off. All right. So if you have a look, the Allen key just stops the center from spinning around. Drop link's now out. All right. Yes, I tapped it out. Really, you should just lift it up and push it out. But I've tapped it out. Hasn't done anything to the thread. It's absolutely fine. That's out of the way. So now we've got that out of the way. We've got the cable out of the way. We've got the brake line, and we've got these main bolts undone as well. So essentially, the bottom half is done. Now, because we've undone this, there's weight pushing down. Okay, I've got a little old jack here to take the weight. You don't necessarily need to use that. All right, but I've got a little old jack just to take the weight of the hub, all right, which allows these bolts to loosen up and want to fall out. So if I take that one out now, my gloves all messy, but essentially they'll wiggle out. You know, you don't really need to do anything. It wants to come out itself, but I'll use my impact on it anyway, just to get it out, because it's easier. You can just wiggle it out. If I take this bolt out, so I'm just taking the lower bolt out now, but remember, once I take that lower bolt out, it's all going to want to fall out. The hub's going to want to fall as well. So actually I'm inclined to leave that one in, and let's go up top and take the 3 nuts off the top. We're up top, and we've got the 3 nuts to take off the top. This essentially stops the whole thing from falling out. So I'll do the back one first, as I said, because that's the hard to get to one. And as I said, we should take that one right off if we can. before undoing any of the other ones. All right, let's have a look if we can get our spanner on it. Yes, we can. It's actually quite loose, but it's just a pain to get to. See if I can get my hand in there and twist it. Let's use my other hand. Sorry. Yeah, so I'm undoing it. If you have a look, I'm just getting my fingers in there and I'm just undoing it. Obviously, it's anti-clockwise on that. If it gets a bit tight, you will just have to get back on it to loosen up. But essentially, I'm just undoing that. Like so. Got a lot of traffic driving past us today. Like so. So again, this is a bit of a pain having to do it like this, but I'd rather sit here for 5 minutes undoing this like this than take all that plastic trim off, to be honest. So I'll be happy with undoing this with my spanner and my fingers. You know, there'll be people that will say, oh, let's take out the trim, let's do it properly. Just notice there's a little bolt missing off that. Sorry, not missing off that, but it's nothing anyway. Just holding the fuse box, which, let's face it, ain't going to go nowhere. So I'm still undoing that one nut. Obviously, it's got quite far to go up. And if we have a look, she's about halfway up. But at least it's loose. If it's not, we'll just get the spanner back in there. Right. Just keep doing that until it comes off. And then once it's off, bit of a pain to get in there. Actually, my left hand is better with this one. Obviously, the front ones are going to be easy. And it's always going to be tight taking it off because obviously it's been sat there. Once you're putting it back on, it'll be a lot easier to get down, roll down. And remember, that's going to be the last one that you do up. Because we're nearly off, guys. We're nearly off. It's like watching paint dry, isn't it? All right, so now it's got close to the top. It's literally just rolling. All right. When you get to the top, let's try and zoom in here. When you get to the top, don't let it fall off the top. All right. If you spin it on the top, you'll find it will just spin at the top of the nut. And you'll feel that it's no longer unthreading, but it's just spinning on that one point. If you're really, really gentle, you will be able to feel that. So I'm undoing it. I can feel now that it's not actually undoing anymore. It's literally just spinning at the top. All right. Which means with my fingers, I can pick it up with the tip of my fingers and just lift it out. So if you have a look under here, hopefully you can see it. It is spinning, but it's not connected to the bolt anymore. It's just spinning. I can move it. All right. So now I'll just pick it up and bring it out like so. There you are. And what I'll do is I'll show you what I mean by spinning on the top. Just crank that off first. It's quite tight. Remember, anti-clockwise. Don't go the wrong way. So essentially what I'm doing to this one is exactly what I've done to the one at the back. And I'll show you what I mean about it spinning on the top without you dropping it. Because if that falls off, it's likely just to disappear somewhere. Okay, so let's undo that. If I had somebody here holding the camera, it would be 150 times faster, obviously, what we're doing here. But you can see I've loosened it enough for it to loosen. All right, and what I did at the back is exactly what I'm doing now. But as you see, once you get to the top, you can see now my fingers just twisting it and twisting it. You just keep going and you can almost feel, it's got that focus, you can almost feel when it's at the top and it can't twist off no more because it goes really, really loose. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And now you can feel it on your finger that it's not connected anymore. And then what I did is I just put my fingers inside and I just went round it and grabbed it, lifted it off and brought it out. And that's essentially what I did at the back to get it off. Right, let me get this one off and I'll be back with you. When you are undoing this last one, remember the shock absorber is going to want to drop out essentially. So if you feel like there's a bit of movement, this is moving, don't worry about it. It's just because it wants to come out. So you'll find that every time you undo this nut, it drops out a bit more. Now, the shock absorber shouldn't really drop out because you've still got that big bolt in at the bottom. Okay, but let's undo this, get it out of place, and then we'll go back underneath and just take the shock absorber out. All right. Yeah, so that big bolt's holding it in place. So as you can see, we're undoing it and it's staying now, which is what we want. If we had taken that bottom bolt out, this wouldn't happen. The whole thing would have just dropped through, and which would make it harder for me to get these nuts off. All right, so leaving this one bottom bolt in place on the hub here to hold it, to stop it from falling down, is what's keeping that up. Okay, which makes it easier for us to undo this. Obviously we wouldn't be able to do it with our fingers if we had undone that bottom one, right? Because that's a 13. I don't think I need a 13. I'm going to keep that spanner up there with them. So you set up on a stand. I'm going to pull this bolt out. As you can see, everything's got so much movement now. Everything just wants to fall out. All right. So I'm going to pull this bolt out or take it out. Easier. All right. As soon as I take it out, this shock absorber wants to drop down. So I'm going to hold it and I'm going to take the bolt out at the same time. All right. So as you see, I took that out, put the bolt safe. This shock absorber now wants to just drop out. So if you have a look, the whole thing is just coming out. Yeah, then 3 bolts that were at the top hold it in place. They're not holding it in place anymore. I move it to the side a little bit, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down, and let's take it out carefully. This is one of the easiest cars I would say I've done. All right, so here we are. Don't want to catch anything. All right, and there you have it. The whole shock absorber is out. Right, let's have a look at this. Right, guys, we have the spring off, okay, and the shock absorber. It all came off as one. As you can see, this sat on the car. You had your 2 bolts going through, one through there, one through there. You had your brake line and you had your sensor. Then you had your 3 little nuts at the top holding it in, so it's sat up inside the car, inside the wing. All right. This is the only dangerous part of the spring change. This spring essentially has got loads of pressure between the bottom point here and the top point here. It's pushing out with immense pressure, and the only thing holding that pressure is that nut in the top here. If you have a look, there's a little nut in there, all right, which we're going to have to undo. Now, if we was to undo that nut without clamping the spring, this would go off like a bomb, possibly kill somebody. Don't want to do it. You need to make sure that you've got spring compressor on it. Now, spring compressor is this. It's 2 little metal things here, all right? They're really, really cheap, probably a tenner to buy, okay? And what they do is essentially, as you can see, they just go on the spring and they clamp onto the spring at the top and the bottom. And then when we do that up, it tightens the spring together. Essentially, it squeezes the spring together. So if I put this one on for you so you can see, so if I just make sure it's seated properly, I put it on the bottom of the spring, okay, and then find the location more towards the top. On this one I don't need to go right to the top, such a small spring. I'll just twist it down. I'll show you how to do that. So if you have a look, I've just gone directly on the opposite side. So you've got one on each side. Now when I tighten this up and tighten this up, it's going to start squeezing the spring together, okay, compressing the spring, and all that's doing is taking the pressure off. So when I take that top nut off, it doesn't blow up and want to kill you, basically. So let me go ahead and use a ratchet, because I'm guessing that's what you're going to use. I'm going to use a ratchet to tighten this up, all right, so you can see it being done. Bear with me. So if I now go to here, you can see we've both got both spring compressors. Guys, this is really, really important. This is the bit you need to be safe on, okay? You need to make sure both springs are directly opposite each other, okay? The spring clamps, and also that they are seated over the spring properly, You don't want it hanging off, because when you tighten it, you know, it's a dangerous game. So we're now going to just do these up slowly, slowly, slowly. And if you have a look, what I do is I do that side up a bit. Okay, I'll do 6 turns. Okay, then I'll go to the other side, go onto this side of the spring clamp, and I'll do the same. Just keep checking that the spring clamp is in the right place. Okay, now you go back and forth, 6 turns, 6 turns. Okay, what I'm going to do is put my impact driver on it just for speed, because the weather's actually not on our side today. It looks like it's really going to rain. All right, so again, I'm just tightening it up. I'm tightening it up. Okay, you can see the spring compressing, and then I'll go to the other side, tighten it up, then I go to the other side and tighten it up. All right, and I'm just going to keep doing that back and forth until I can feel that there's no pressure on the top. Okay, so now I'll take that out, and I'll go back to the other side, I'll tighten that up, and then now if I go to this side and tighten it up, I can now feel that the spring's loose, the top cap's loose. I feel there's no pressure on it. That's why it's able to turn. If there was pressure on it, it wouldn't be able to turn that easy. Okay, I can see that actually that's good to go. I can take that center nut out, and it's not going to want to explode in my face. Don't know what size that is yet. Could be an 18. Let's have a look. Yes, it is an 18. So it's an 18 nut on the top. You can use a ratchet on this. It might be hard initially to get it off, but it will come off. All right, but I'm using this now. When I'm undoing this, I can feel that there's movement in the top cap. Another safety check. I can feel that, you know, there's movement. There's not much pressure on it, so I know if I take this off, these springs aren't going to explode. All right, so I'm just going to take this top nut off. As you can see, it's coming off pretty easy. I'm actually doing it with my fingers now, and there's no explosion happening here. All right, if there was, that now would have gone bang. Okay, so now I can take this mount off safely. Okay, and we're good. All right, the spring is still compressed by the spring clamps, so it's still dangerous at the moment. It's not safe. Okay, that is not safe, but it will allow you to take the spring out now. Okay, you can either undo the spring while it's on here or when it's off the car. All right, and if I undo these again, we're going to go side to side a little bit at a time to make this spring safe now. Essentially undoing the tension that was on the spring. Okay, obviously that one's loose. That one's loose. And go back to the other side, so you can see there's no tension left. So the spring clamps are off, which allows us now to take the spring out. I know that's the bottom of the spring and that's the top of the spring, so essentially I need to match it. Okay, so if I get the new spring out and hold it like this in the same position, like so, I can see that that is the bottom and that is the top. Also, you can check your circular holes as well. The springs match up at the same place. You need to seat them back in exactly the same place. We'll pick this up, we'll put it down in place. If you have a look, this can only seat in one place. It hits a bit of metal there, you spin it, and it hits the metal, you see? So that is seated, all right? Now, you might find when you're putting the new spring in that you don't need to clamp it, because essentially this spring is a bit shorter because it's a lowered spring. So if we put this over the top, let's test the theory and see if that will do that or not. All right, let's take that nut out of there. I don't know why I left it in there. Okay, so yeah, my theory was right. So if you have a look, the bolts can already be done up. All right, so the spring is much smaller. So if I do that, push down a little bit and do that nut up, there you go. So that nut's now done up. All right, I can now just do that up. Again, you will be using your your spanners, but that is it. Old spring out, new spring on, and it's ready to go back into the car. Okay, so we've already more or less lowered it. Well, we've lowered this part. Now I'm gonna have to push this part in, okay, and I'm gonna do this in a little bit more of a reverse. It's a bit difficult. I'm gonna push this up so the holes go inside the car up the top here. Let's show you. So I'm going to push this back in, so these just come through the holes that you're very aware of that are up here. Okay, and when I push it up, I'm just going to get one nut while I'm sitting down here. I'm going to get one nut and put it in at the top just to hold this in place. Now we know it goes back in this way. We know this is facing forward, so that's how it needs to go back in. Everything needs to go back in exactly how we took it out. Okay, so let's have a look up there. Have a look where the holes are, which I can see. Remember, this will twist a bit now, so you can twist it to get it right. And then I'm going to push it in here, go under, and line up the holes, and push it through the holes underneath again. It will have to go in the way you took it out. So essentially, I'm going to put it back in, like so. And then I'm going to push it back up to where it was, like so. Where are you? So all I've done is aim it up the top, go under, aim it under. You can see the holes, line it up, push it back through the top, there. That's it, and you heard that going. All right, now I've got it and it's gone in. The 3 holes at the top have gone in. I'm just going to put my hand over. I can feel them right here, and I'm just going to put one of the nuts there, and then I can go up here because we kept the nuts close, and I can also put the second nut on as well. Obviously we won't be able to tighten them right up, but what it will do is hold the shock absorber in place. So now I can let this go and it doesn't fall out. All right, it's made our life easier. If I take you up there for a second, you can see that I've just put 2 nuts in here just to hold it in place. All right, let's go back under. Now, what bit do we do first? I would probably say, if we can, let's get this hub back onto the shock absorber. That's one of the biggest bits. Obviously these big bolts here, like so. Let's get onto it. So as you see, there's the hub. It's going to go into the shock as we saw before, and essentially that's gone in now. There's 2 options on this. When you get to this stage, if you've got something under the car here holding this up, just holding underneath it, this is not in line. You know, you need this hub needs to go up. But if you've got something under here, what you could do is lower your main jack over here, lower your main jack down a tiny bit, which would allow these nuts to go in. Or if you've got a spare jack from somebody else's car and you've got it under here like I have, then all you do, you just jack it up a little bit until the holes line up, which they have now, and then I can just push this bolt through. And if you have a look, that bolt's gone through, which is really, really easy. And then the bottom bolt, that one has also gone through. So they're both on already. Once they're in place, I know that I can undo the brake line bolt that was holding the brake line, and I can just put that back in place too, which we know already that that's a 10mm. Okay, so I've now got my nuts to go back on these big bolts that are sitting so loose, nice and easy. 1 and 2. Okay, for speed, guys, I am going to use the impact driver again, but That's only because the weather ain't on my side and it wants to rain. So I've put that on there. I'm going to put this on here. Actually, I won't use that. I will use a spanner. What size is it? 19, wasn't it? Didn't keep my tools next to it, you see. That's at 16. And this demonstrates the importance of keeping all your tools together, essentially. So, look, my tool's fallen under there. And I didn't know where it was. Right, so I put my 19 on, and I'm just going to do this up. You'll be using a ratchet set. You put your spanner on, you put your ratchet on, and you just do it up as tight as you can. So if you want to know the torque specifications, it's just really, really tight. All right, that's really, really tight. And that one's solid tight as well. Let's get this this 10mm back in, which is the brake line locator. Keeps it out of the way, keeps it safe. Right, put that back in and do that up. Again, all that does is stops the brake line from rubbing against anything. And that's that done, nice and tight. Right, and then we clip this back in place here. There's one little clip at the bottom which has gone in, and then one clip here which has gone in as well. All right, so it's as simple as that. Now we know this is all good. All right, so to recap, we've put the 2 big bolts through and done them up. We've put the brake line locator and the 10mm bolt going through here in to locate that in place, and then we've also clipped the sensor, lovely gloves, clipped the sensor back in here as well. All right, so everything here we know is absolutely perfect. This is tight, this is tight, this is important. Make sure these are tight, okay? They hold your hub. If these 2 bolts were to come out while you're driving, okay, your whole wheel would just fall forward. So super, super tight. Torque settings super tight, and then obviously your brake line locator. Now we are left with the drop link, and as you can see from this, it looks an absolute pain to get that in. It looks like they're totally out of line. What you can do is, if you have got a little jack, again, you jack this jack up underneath here, which pushes this up, okay? Or if you haven't and you've just got a block underneath this, you can lower your car a tiny bit. Remember to take your wheel out, lower your car a tiny bit, and what that will do is actually drop that drop link down. But if you look, as I lift this, as I jack this up a little bit, which I will do now, just get a pole in there to jack it. As I jack it, you'll see that it will start to come into line. You see? Just to make life easy. Now you can see it's bang in line. What I can do is just push that through and I can get the nut on it. All right, that's the easiest way to be able to do that. And then we put that on and tighten it up. If you don't tighten it up enough, okay, it's going to knock. You'll hit bumps in the road, be like donk, 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 and essentially the donk is that. It'll be a movement of that knocking every time you hit something. It sounds like your whole suspension's falling apart. So it's really, really important that you tighten this up. Now, if you have a look, as I'm turning that, the whole thing's turning again. So again, get your Allen key in there, get your spanner on it, get it done up tight if you don't want any knocking, all right? And then that'll be the bottom part of the car done. Easy peasy. We are back on top, and all that's left to do out of this entire lowering is tighten 1, tighten 2, and get number 3 on and tighten up as well, all right? We know that these are decent, they're tight enough for now. Okay, we need to get that 3rd nut in there, and the way I'm going to do it is exactly the same way as I took it off. I'm putting it between my fingers like so, okay, and I'm taking it through. I'm just going to feed it until I feel the top of the nut. I'm going to place it on top, and then I'm just going to spin it. You can't see that because it's so tight in there, obviously, but I've rested it on top, as you see, and now just gently going to spin it. And if you have a look, it's gone on. Just as easy as that. All right. So That's gone on there, so I can start tightening that one up. Can I do that one by hand? Yep, so it's spinning by hand. But now that's on, we can start getting spanners on and tightening these up. Again, the long process. I'll tighten one up, video in, and then you guys can tighten the rest in your own time. I don't think I need to record this bit as it's so boring, but get all three tight, and I mean super tight, as tight as you can do it. And then once they're done, I'll be back with you. That's the spring changed. Everything's done up, as we just recapped. Everything's on, and the spring's in place. A nice new spring. That is it. Get your jacks, get your wheel back on, and this side's done.